Okay, now a relationship management. Relationship management is very difficult to manage. Easily said, and the most difficult thing to manage. Because of information revolution, companies have a wide range of technologies for managing their operations and supply chain. But nothing can be managed properly if there is no relationship or less intense relationship among each other or among the channel partners. This relationship management is very important to improve operations and supply chain performance, and without the cooperation this cannot be achieved. As a result, more companies are putting emphasis on relationship management. Now, this relationship management is, as I told you, very difficult and therefore most susceptible to breakdown. A poor relationship within any link of the supply chain can have a disastrous consequences for all other supply chain members. Now, the example for the same can be an unreliable supplier can virtually cripple a plant, leading to inflated lead time and resulting in problems across the chain all the way to the final customer. If this happens, then there is always the chances or the scope for the organization to lose the customer. So without the cooperation, the performance is inconsequential. And to avoid such problems, firms must manage the relationship between their suppliers and the customers. Though it is very difficult to manage the relationship between the partners, but it is very essential to have for an effective supply chain. Now let's talk about the 4 key drivers to supply chain management. The 4 key drivers to supply chain management are inventory, transportation, facilities, and information. Now, if we talk about the inventory, as the term suggests, inventory comprises of raw material, finished goods, and other things. Now, what is the reason why inventory is important? Why an organization should keep an inventory with it? The reason for the existence of inventory is due to discrepancy between demand and supply. To avoid this discrepancy, it is very important for the organization to have inventory with it. But then, how much inventory? As inventory includes major source of cost in the supply chain. So this decision, how much inventory, is very crucial. The organization have to reach to the conclusion upon how much inventory they need to store at each level of supply chain. This is known to everyone that the manufacturers would sell more of the goods if he has stock in his hand for that particular goods. But then the second thing is that if the manufacturers have a very large stockpile of inventory, the holding cost will increase. If the holding cost will increase, the cost price of the product will increase. So the cost effectiveness of the product will be lost. And therefore, it is very important for the manufacturer to reduce the inventory cost without compromising on the responsiveness of the customer demand. Now, this is a crucial situation because if there is no inventory, then always there is a scope of delay of responsiveness towards the customer, which is again not a good sign for the company. So this crucial decision has to be taken by monitoring the market, by monitoring the demand of the customers, by seeing, by having the information that whenever the demand can rise by the customer, so that the companies can able to meet the demand of the customer and can be responsive towards the customer. Now, the second point is transportation. Transportation is needed or is used by the organization to move goods and products between the different stages of supply chain. It is essential for the organization to decide upon the different mode or different routes of transportation. Again, the cost effectiveness is important and it has to be taken into consideration, because if the cost increases for the transportation, then ultimately the cost of the product will increase. But then again, here also the responsiveness towards the customer is important. Sometimes it might be important for the organization to take an air route, since they have to respond to the customer immediately. But by taking the air route, the cost effectiveness of the product is lost. Why? Because air route needs a high cost. and indirectly it increases the cost price of the product. Now the organization has to take a decision wherein they have to look the necessity by the customer and also how much the customer is willing to pay for that particular product. Example can be a medicine. Imagine if a customer requires a medicine immediately, definitely the organization would take a air route and provide the medicine to the customer at the right time. Because at this particular moment, the customer is ready to pay a high price for that medicine if it reaches to him or her at the right time. So it is again a very crucial decision for the organization to make. Because here in this example, the responsiveness is important and it is taking an edge over the price effectiveness. But if you take another example that a customer needs a toy, for that toy the customer can wait one more day, but he wants a cost effectiveness more. He wants that the toy should be cost effective. So that toy can be sent to the customer through railways or through other mode of transportation which is cheaper than air. But in the same example, if the toy is a gift for some birthday boy or some birthday girl and the customer needs it on the same day of birthday and the time required is not giving you the permission to use any other transport than air, definitely there is no alternative left by the organization, for the organization, and organization has to deliver the toy to the customer through air route. It may not be cost effective, but it can provide an happiness on the face of the customer as well as on the birthday boy or girl. Again, it is a very crucial decision. So, in both the examples, we have to, or the organization have to think that which is more important, the responsiveness or the cost effectiveness. And this is a very crucial decision, and this can only be taken when the organization has a proper information, or the manufacturer or the supplier or the distributor have the proper information about the customer requirement. That is why you find information as one of the key driver in supply chain. Without this information, it would not be possible for any warehouse, any distributor, any retailer to provide the things or products or services to the customer at the right place, right time, and right location, and respond to the demand of the customer. If we take the next one, Next is facility. Now, facility are the locations in the supply chain where the storage is done, whether it is a raw material or finished goods. Facility is also considered as a location where the work in progress material are assembled or fabricated, and from where the finished goods are distributed. Again, the organization has to take this decision very crucially, very sensibly, that how many facilities they can afford and where the facilities should be located, how close the facilities should be located to the customers. If the facilities are close to the customers, it will increase the supply chain effectiveness. But then it will also increase the cost of maintaining so many facilities. So it is very crucial decision of the organization that how many facilities has to be maintained. Because if the facilities are too less, then obviously the responsiveness or the effectiveness of supply chain will decrease or it will be affected. Though the maintenance cost will be less, but again the organization or the manufacturers or the suppliers or the distributors cannot afford to have delayed in the responsiveness of the demand of the customers. Next is information. Information again is very important and it's the most important part of supply chain, because without information, no delivery, no production can be done. And in order to have an effective supply chain, the responsiveness or the delivery to the demand of the customer is very important. Without information, it would not be possible to manage the coordination among the various entities of supply chain. As it is very important to have a proper coordination to improve the efficiency of supply chain. Because it is this information that tells the manufacturers, the suppliers, the distributors that how much quantity has to be produced, when it is needed and where it is needed, which in turn helps the supply chain helps to make the supply chain more effective and increase the responsiveness to the market demand. So information plays a massive role in the effectiveness of supply chain. Now, what are the characteristics of supply chain management philosophy? There are three characteristics. First, the whole supply chain is a single integrated entity. Where the management of finished products from the supplier to the ultimate customer is taken care of. Second, to manage the cost effectiveness, quality and delivery requirement of the customer, leading to customer satisfaction. Is important. And the third is inventory should be the last option in order to resolve the supply and demand discrepancy. These all threes are the important points of supply chain philosophy, wherein we find that if we want to manage an efficient supply chain, we have to keep into consideration the cost effectiveness, the time, the responsiveness towards the demand of the market, and also we have to take care of that the product leads to the customer with the quality specifications. So that ends up your philosophy of supply chain management.